Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton, speaking to you from Hanoi. So it's a bit noisy outside my window. We'll see how we go in terms of the noise levels. I haven't got my new microphone yet. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this great comment that I got. It's a really interesting question, especially given the times we're currently living in. And the comment was based on my "What is your energy transmission" video. And it was asking for help for those who give away or transmit too much energy compared to what you have. So this person realized that she was sending a lot of high frequency healing energy to places, people, and situations full of pain and suffering. And she wanted to know how to regulate or be more conscious about this. So it is actually a really good question because for many of us, like landing here in Hanoi, I know I'm empathic and I know I'm very sensitive, but you don't really realize until you come into a place that is just full of activity, energetics, noise, chaos, how exhausting it is because your energy is just going out the whole time to, I'm not sure if it's trying to harmonize the situation, but it feels like a kind of battering of the senses or an assault on the senses. And then with all the news going on, with all the stuff going on in the Middle East, it's just a lot, and there's this constant feeling that you're picking up from the energies around you and that you're picking up from a global level, the levels of anxiety and fear and uncertainty, and part of that is probably reflected in your own life in terms of how things are going in your life. Like if you're in a very stable, safe, and harmonious place yourself, there's probably less impact for you. Whereas if you're trying to settle in somewhere, if you're making transitions, if you're noticing that your own life is a little bit tumultuous, then you're picking up a resonance with the turmoil around you is going to be more acute. So I would say this is actually the biggest tip that I can give you in terms of self-regulation or being more conscious about it is to focus internally. So everything is a reflection, right? So if I am feeling uneasy internally, then I am going to naturally respond to or resonate with external turmoil or uneasiness or kind of those feelings of energetic disruption. If I am feeling very calm and centered internally, then even if there is a lot of external turmoil, it impacts me a lot less because I am giving off, and this was the whole point of the video, what is your energy transmission? The whole point is when you focus internally on how you are doing and regulating that, then whatever is happening externally becomes less impactful. It's not to say it goes away at all, like we are energetic beings, and for some of us, we are highly empathic. I don't think there's an off switch for that because I think you've come in with that for a specific reason. So, for those of us who are empathic and sensitive, then we tend to end up in roles like this, right? Healers, teachers, carers. That's kind of what our roles are or what we've come in to do. There is a need for that kind of empathy and sensitivity in this world, and ever more so, right? Always has been, always will be. And so it's not something you can just switch off, but it is certainly something that you can help yourself with, right? In terms of managing it and in terms of just being able to be more steady. So even when there's all this stuff going on, so there's two things here. The first thing is really being conscious of when you are projecting. So oftentimes when we feel uncomfortable, internally, we automatically try and fix the external because we think, oh, if I'm feeling uncomfortable inside, it must be because something outside is causing that in terms of maybe I've changed jobs, maybe I've moved house, maybe I've gone through a relationship breakup, maybe so there's always an external trigger, if you like, that causes an unsettling internally. And so then, rather than just dealing with the feeling of being unsettled, we go back out again and try and stabilize everything externally, which then causes a huge amount of stress because, as we all know, you can't fix the outside. Like if you've had something like a job change or a house move or a relationship breakup or something like this, or you've lost somebody, you can't fix that, right? That's a kind of done deal. And all you can do is manage the internal discomfort of having to deal with the change or the grief or the transition. Now, if you focus on that feeling of discomfort rather than going back out and trying to stabilize everything, then actually what you'll find is that the stabilization, which is happening externally anyway, because time heals. So time heals grief and disappointment and movement. And if you are settling into something new, then time will also settle that. So the external will take care of itself. As you well know, there's very little you need to do apart from your usual activities to assimilate that. That will happen. But what you're really trying to do, if you're noticing that there's a lot of draining of your energy, is you are giving your energy out to try and make it happen quicker. And that really is a waste of energy. You'd be much better off internalizing and focusing through meditation, through Reiki, through mindfulness, or through just the acceptance that in this moment I feel super uncomfortable and being with the discomfort. Like if you can make friends with your own discomfort, that's a real superpower. Because no matter what the world throws at you, what people throw at you, what situations or events throw at you, if you can come back into a sense of peace and calm, or that feeling of being okay with not being okay, right? When you're feeling the anxiety's coming up, everything's coming up, and you are okay with that, that is a real superpower because the more you can be okay with it, the quicker it will be okay. I mean, it just happens like that. The more we're not okay, and then we go externally to try and fix things, the more we're focused on having things outside needing to be a certain way for us to feel okay, then the more controlling and tight and difficult everything gets, and the more stressful everything gets because people and situations and events and world wars and politicians and all these things are not within our control. So then we're just constantly stressed about what's going on around us rather than dealing with the root cause. And the root cause is my internal discomfort. And it's kind of weird how simple it is once you realize what the root cause is. And the root cause is I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. I don't like how it's making me feel. I don't like how my body's responding. So if you just make friends with what you don't like internally, not externally, but internally, this feeling of anxiety, this feeling of not being sure about things, the uncertainty, if you are able to just sit with that and be okay with that. And when I mean okay, I mean simply the act of accepting that it's there. Like, that's the first step, right? The feeling of the churny feeling, and then investigating it. Like, how bad is it really? And isn't it kind of okay to feel like this? And if you sit with it long enough, it kind of gets bored and goes away, right? It's not constant. So you don't have to try and fix it. That's also more of the kind of projection that we're doing, trying to fix something. It's more the case of allowing it to be exactly as it is. I talk about this a lot. Allowing your feelings, your emotions, and the way that it is, and feeling kind of okay, right? It's all okay. Whatever is happening, whatever is arising, whatever you're experiencing is exactly correct because that's what's happening. And that's, again, the fundamental realization in non-duality is that absolutely everything that's arising in this moment for you is exactly what's meant meant to be arising because it is. And if you can really land in that, and we always forget that because the mind is always trying to move into the future. It's always trying to make things better, always trying to make things different. That's the mind's job almost, is to not be satisfied with this very moment. And I'm guessing because if it was satisfied with this very moment, it wouldn't have a job. It would be out of a job. So therefore, it's constantly trying to create problems. The mind is just one big problem maker so that it can then solve problems because that's kind of what the mind does. So once you accept that your mind's job is to think, and the very act of thinking is disturbing. That's something, right? The heart's job is to pump blood. The brain's job is to most of the brain's job is to keep the functions of the body going. But the conscious mind, that mind that is the kind of problem part, is the thinking mind. And the thinking mind's job is to analyze and come up with problems so that you can then solve problems. That's kind of it, right? So realizing that will give you a context with which to work on or just observe your inner state. So every time you start noticing that your attention is going out, you're getting stressed, you're getting anxious, you're getting worried, then just take that time to come back into the body, whether that's your Reiki treatment, your meditation, or just sitting quietly, whatever it is, going for a walk, and just coming back into that sense of self of, okay, why am I kind of sending out energy to people, situations, things? Like, why am I doing that in the first place? And to bring it all back in. So the idea that we're unconsciously sending out things, I think, would be more perhaps an empathic response in terms of noticing. So the second part of this, so the first part is to come back into yourself and just work on the internal, because that will directly impact how you feel about the external, right? Which is different from changing it. There's a lot of stuff in law of attraction that is like, if I change my internal, then I change my external. Like, that to me is kind of fantastical thinking. Like, if I change my internal, then I can change the weather. And I've been talking about this the last couple of videos. It's like, really, have you tried that? Doesn't work. Like, we're not God in that sense, right? But if we change the internal, we're more peaceful, we're more calm, we're more centered, then the way we approach the external definitely changes. Like, that is true. But to then mistaken that for being able to manifest something completely different, I think that's where me and law of attraction kind of separate ways, because I think that that turns into kind of godlike super ego stuff. I don't know. I don't resonate with that part, but the part of being much more connected with your internal self for sure helps you deal with the external. Okay, so that aside, then the second part really is this question of unconsciously sending high frequency energy to these places. Now, so the question I would have for this, if you're unconsciously doing it, is are you actually unconsciously sending energy out? Or is it more that you are picking up on these frequencies and you're noticing the pain and the suffering? Because as an empath, that definitely happens. When you have somebody full of pain walk into your life, you can feel the pain, right? When you're caring for people, when you are healing people, when you're teaching people, maybe when you're turning on the news, like the ability of an empath to feel the pain and the suffering, which is different from you unconsciously sending your energy. So again, when you're feeling the pain and the suffering of somebody else, the only way that you could then be sending them your energy and draining yourself is if you do it willingly, right? It can't be pulled. So I want to be careful how I say this because it is kind of unconscious, but again, it's an internal movement. So let's say you turn on the news and there's all this suffering and you can feel, right? You can feel your energy going, oh, like this out to them. And that could be through empathy, that could be through sorrow, that could be through a feeling of real difficulty in your system, sadness, grief, rage, outrage, all this kind of stuff. And again, the underlying belief is this shouldn't be happening. And that could bring up sadness, it could bring up anger, it could bring up a whole bunch of emotions of resisting what is actually happening. So when you're looking at the news, and I know this is really difficult, okay? But when you're watching what's going on and you feel that anger come up, it's because, or sadness or helplessness, it's because somewhere in your system, you are resisting the truth of this is happening. Now, again, very clearly, I'm not saying this is happening and it's right. So I'm not making a moral judgment about this. All I'm saying is it is happening. So at the moment, the situation we've got on the global scene is happening. It is happening. It's not, somebody's not making this up. We're not being gaslit here. There is stuff going on. Now, I'm not making a moral judgment on whether that's right or wrong. And that is the issue. That's the issue you have to deal with because your morality of whether this is right or wrong is what is draining your energy. So, again, very difficult to talk about because I don't want to tell you to therefore drop your morality because I'm certainly not dropping my morality. I have very strong opinions about what's going on at the moment. But I am also able to see that part of me that has very strong opinions and the reality, which is, and it's happening anyway. Okay. And the fact it's happening anyway means it is what is supposed to be happening. And then I watch my battle with myself, with my ego self, where it shouldn't be happening, it shouldn't be happening. But that again is an internal reflection. It's an internal meditation of how do I balance my own human morality with the actuality or the reality of what is happening. Okay, so my morality and what is happening are two separate things. Now, If I combine them and go, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, this is outrageous, this is blah, 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 then all of that other people's pain and suffering becomes my pain and suffering. And then, of course, I'm going to be expending a lot of energy on that to try and heal essentially myself. So it's a tricky one. I'm not saying I've got the answer to this at all. I yo yo back and forth, and I tend to keep reminding myself. So when I am reminding myself, what I notice is that when I can drop into the meditation of all is as it is, all is as it should be, and really land in that, whatever is unfolding at the moment is the exact thing to be unfolding at the moment because it is unfolding at the moment. And when you just remember that simplicity, which is non duality, in a nutshell, non duality is it is what it is, right? It is that. It is this. That's non duality. So, right now, everything that's going on, including your unconsciously sending out or your inability to regulate or your discomfort, all of that is exactly as it should be because it is exactly as it is. And somehow, for me, meditating on that, reflecting on that, just sitting and being with that is extremely helpful. And that's kind of it. So it's always an internal job. All of this is an internal job. It's having the self-compassion to look at where you're struggling, and it's having the self-compassion to understand that there is a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of churning, there's an awful lot of difficulty at the moment, right? And if you're an empath and a sensitive, you're going to be picking up on that because you're picking up on your own sensitivity to it. You're picking up on the sensitivity of the general, like, human condition that we're all, as empaths, very tapped into. And so you're needing to manage a lot. But then also, it's also accelerating your own spiritual growth. So, I mean, it's all happening for a reason, right? Okay, that's me done. I hope that hasn't confused things more. And here in Hanoi, lovely to see you all and see you soon. Take care.